Hello and welcome to Saguaro Spotlight. My name is Katy Roxanne and we're here today with Ed Phillips. Ed is a consultant and coach for media, communications, and business. Ed, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you here.
So, you know, at my age, it's good to be anywhere. But that's another story.
So first question, right off the bat, what are some tips for success?
Well, goals are good.
Yes.
And you know, I found that as I coach people, that some people have never really sat down and put together a goal set. And you can have short term, like I want to do it yet this year or this month.
Right.
You can have medium term, then you can have long term. And the long term might be a career or you know, a big life event.
Right.
The medium might be I want to be at a certain point in my job or earnings. And then a short term could be something as simple. I've got to change this habit. I got to fix this bad thing that I'm doing.
Right.
That's one thing. Goals are very important. Another thing that is so important is when you're getting into the business, whether it's film or anything else and you're in college, I tell my students, I say, use the facilities that you're at to learn everything you can about everything you can. And by that I mean, I tell people you learn everything you can about film. Do you know how to edit? Yes, I learned how to edit.
Right.
Do you know how to run audio? Yes, I learned. Do you know how to light? Yes, I learned that. And that way you're so much more employable. Even though it may not be that long goal list job, it's a good place to get in.
Well, right, of course. And I mean, why would you not use the opportunities that you have at your fingertips?
And then the internships, when they come along, they say, have you ever edited? Yeah. Have you ever run audio? Sure. Have you ever done this? Have you ever done that?
Right.
And the more yeses you can give, the closer you're going to be to them saying, yes, like you've got the internship,
work for us,
you've got the job, and then that's how you get your foot in the door.
Gotcha.
And then later on you can knock down the door.
Gotcha. Okay, so, and then we were talking earlier, and your degree that you actually had is in meteorology.
Oh, were you supposed to share that?
I don't know, maybe it wasn't, but
yes.
But so how did you go from having that major to working in media and entertainment?
It was an accident.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it really was an accident. I was so focused on weather. I mean, I wanted to be a meteorologist from the time I was in like 5th grade. So I was the geeky guy that went to the counselor in high school and said, I need to take all the math and all the science that I can get because I'm going to become a meteorologist. And they just looked at me and went, okay.
That's a weird goal, but
sure. Guy, yeah, fine. And so after I got my degree, I found out when I was in college that we didn't have a college radio station. But as I was learning about forecasting, there was another university in town. My school was very small; it was only 900,
Oh, wow.
and it was a part of St. Louis University. Well, Washington University had a big radio station, and our meteorology professor had offered for us students to be interns.
Oh, that's cool.
And do the weather on their radio station. Well, sure, I'd love to talk, you know, as you can probably tell. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And we did that, and that's how we got our feet wet. So lo and behold, the first job I got, I had an internship, I'm back to that, and ended up getting the job offer full-time at a private weather forecasting firm.
Cool. Okay.
But the interesting thing is, the job that I was given, about half of it was doing radio broadcasts for radio stations scattered throughout the middle part of the country. So it's like, wait a minute, let me get this straight. You get to write down a couple of little notes here, you get to talk, and they still pay you? It's like, I'm in.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's how I got started, and then I got sick of that in a few years because it was, well, I was in St. Louis. I mean, you know, that's pretty easy to get sick of. And I moved to Arizona cold turkey. I knew 2 people, starved for a year, and then a guy came into the place I was working and had a real deep voice. He said, "Could I ask you that?" And I was like, "Wow, you must work in radio." I was real perceptive then. And I said, "You must work in radio?" And he said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I do." And I said, "Well, I'm a meteorologist. I'm looking for a job in radio." And he said, "Well, our sister station happened to have a meteorologist that died."
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, there's opportunity there.
There is. As sad as it may be.
So I met with the news director and he said, "You sure you're a meteorologist?" And I said, "Yeah, I know I don't look like one, but I am." And so I was hired at a station called KOY, and I was working there after a year or two. And one day this big burly guy walks in and he was talking with my boss, and he kind of gave me the once over and kind of looked me over, and it's like, what are you looking at? And then he said, "You ever been on TV?" And I said, no. He said, "You want to be?" And I said, Sure.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Why
what I said.
not? I mean,
and that's how I got hired at Channel 12. Well, they admitted it was a very torturous route, but I got there anyway.
But still, yeah.
So that's how I ended up doing that.
Well, that's cool. I mean, so, and you've had a lot of experience both in radio and television. And so how have you seen those industries change as technology has advanced and sort of just grown?
It astonishes me. And the changes are, I call them tectonic. They just have shifted so much over the years. I mean, nobody years ago would think of having their own film equipment, or even the early video cameras. I mean, you just couldn't afford them. And there were tubes inside of those cameras that were $2,000.
Wow, yeah.
Which is like, what, $6 million now, I know. They're
a
lot of money.
Yeah.
And now the price of admission to get involved and get into video, and audio is even cheaper.
Right.
The price of admission is so low that now for you guys it's going to mean a lot more competition.
Right.
There are going to be a lot of people out there with skills.
Yeah.
But to get some skills is much, much easier. I mean, you had to work at a radio or TV station, or pretty much that was it.
Right.
Or film.
No, that makes sense. And I mean, I think about one of the Sundance films that just happened was shot on one of these, you know, and it won a bunch of awards. And it's like,
I got a dirty little secret for you. You want to hear it?
Sure. Yeah.
So my son, who is a geek, he's majoring in computer science, so he's that geeky.
That's awesome though. He's gonna have jobs constantly.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, he got a flip cam.
Okay.
Now you know what a flip cam is.
Yes.
They store about an hour of HD video. You can't zoom, you can't do anything with it. It just sits there.
Yeah.
Right. Well, he has now put up about 500 YouTube videos, and I'll tell you what they are in a second. And I think he's up to 5.8 million views.
Wow.
Everyone was with his flip cam until his phone camera got better and he started using that.
Right. Yeah.
And he is, like I was a weather nut, he's an elevator nut. I can't explain it. I'm just telling you he's an elevator nut. So I almost said film, excuse me. He'll video an elevator, the buttons and what brand it is and all that stuff.
Interesting.
No, it's not interesting. It's
It's
boring.
just odd. It's just
but
odd.
somehow there are enough people in this world of ours that find that
find it interesting.
So that's the dirty little secret.
I mean, whatever gets you views, you know,
there you go.
whatever.
So, you know,
if you have a market, why
I
not
guess the
tap
message
into
there is as much as you love the craft of film, it ain't all about the art.
No.
Some of it is about, if you have a niche audience,
yeah,
they'll go there.
Well, right.
It's amazing.
So in your line of work, what are the best clients and what are the worst clients?
I won't mention any names.
Okay,
I promise you.
Don't mention names.
It's interesting because there are so many people can use coaching and mentoring. They really can, and some have to be convinced that there are other people that have ideas that can help them. And if you can't get to the point to where you realize that you've reached a certain place and you want to go farther and you may be stuck, that's when really a coach or a mentor can come in and help a lot. What I find though, the people that have reached that point and they have that aha moment and they realize that there's somebody out there that has a skill set that can help them, those are the best clients. I mean, they're engaged, they're involved. If you say the word, you know, there's going to be some homework. And by homework, I mean doing things without me being around.
Right, on their own.
I have a client that is in his early 70s and he's starting a new business, and I'm helping him put that together from scratch. He was in corporate America his whole life, and he's a gifted person in a certain area of mechanics. And he's wrapping a business around that, and I'm helping him put that together. And he's such a good client, and he's smart and engaged, and he wants to learn, and he's perfect. I have found other people that they come from just not having anything and not realizing that you have to invest in yourself.
Right. No, that
you
makes
have
sense.
to. My grandfather, who had a 6th grade education, said he said, son, you have to spend money to make money.
Right.
And it's really true.
It's true, yeah.
And the most important thing is to invest in yourself. And if you're a know-it-all, you can't be helped. You already know it all.
Well, because you're not accepting that someone might know better than you.
I've had a client that went off the rails in that he had so little idea. We talked about goals earlier. He had so little idea of what his goals were, and I just couldn't pin him down.
Yeah.
You know, we need to actually, even if it's wrong, you can then say, well, that shouldn't have been the goal.
Right.
I'm going to have another goal.
Determine something first and then work from
Absolutely. And so those are clients that are much more difficult to work with.
Huh.
Interestingly, I have found that women in general are very good clients because they are truth seekers and they are learning seekers, whereas men, sorry guys, I mean, we kind of know it all, you know.
Yeah.
I got it, I got you, you know. And that's not true most of the time.
Right.
We can all use coaching. When I look back through my life, I probably had 4 or 5 mentors and coaches. One of them, I mentioned my grandfather.
Yeah.
And another gentleman who was coaching me in meteorology in my early years. Another one was when I had a stinging failure in business, and I met with him and hired him to be my coach, and then he became my mentor, and then we ended up working together.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I think that's like the best scenario is you learn from someone and then you team up.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, create awesome things.
Yeah,
so.
there's no I in team, and that's one of the things that I've done with my business recently is partnered with other people to create a synergy there, to where you can help people even more, because you have a skill set, they have a skill set, and it intersects.
Find the middle ground, yeah.
But there's also areas where you don't know anything about, and they don't know anything about. But together you got a lot more covered.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So, are there any other pieces of advice or thoughts that you would like to add before we sign off?
Yes, keep learning until the day you die.
Awesome.
And keep slugging.
Yeah.
I call it slugging rats and bailing water. you got to keep at it. Some people will be on something for 5 minutes and then give it up. But if you have a strong goal set, if you decide on a strategy and then figure out the tactics to execute that strategy, pretty much whatever you want to do, you can do.
Yeah.
But you do then at that point have to stick with it.
Right.
And when you do that and you gather all of that information and those skills, you're going to be successful, especially if you have the passion.
Yeah, the passion's
and the energy.
That's the key. But yeah, I mean the thirst and the want to keep learning is also key.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know. I always say, if I'm not learning something, if I'm not challenging myself, then what am I doing?
Like, well, you're dying. You're
right,
dying,
exactly. It's I'm bored. But
exactly.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
This has been another episode of Saguaro Spotlight, and we'll see you next time.